Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and having a weird day. Do you ever have that thing where you cancel something because you're sick, and then you wake up and you feel fine and you feel real guilty? But then, luckily, I went back to feeling sick and exhausted. Slept the whole afternoon. But anyway, I'm watching that movie Year One. Yeah, I know it's from like 10 years ago with Jack Black and Michael Cera. I'm going through a Michael Cera phase. I've been watching Scott Pilgrim on endless repeat for like the last 5 days. Yes, I know his big heyday was like 2007 to 2009, but I was overseas or deployed. I missed that whole time. Okay, but anyway, this movie is stupid and it did terrible. Like it's really dumb, but it's entertaining me. It's making me. I don't know if I've laughed out loud, but it's kind of amusing. But one of the things I keep thinking over and over again is can't do that joke. You can't do that joke. Oh, God, you can't do this whole scene. And we're talking about like a really run of the mill comedy from 10 years ago. So a couple days ago, they had a news article about this guy who was like, I don't know, 65. And he tried to get is in America. He tried to get his age legally changed to like 45 because of ageism, which of course they didn't. I just feel like I want 2019 to legally be 2010. Like, so whenever, because I always say, like, what was the last year that things were totally normal? I'd say maybe 2011, maybe 2012, but I can't say for sure. But I know 2010 was just normal. Everyone was just normal. We just did things, and and like all of society wasn't constantly worried that a handful of a couple hundred people online were going to get fake offended at something, and you just did stuff. So I was like, next year, whenever some SJW LectureBot is pretending to be offended about something, you go, hey, 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 shut up. Legally, it's 2010. Yeah, yeah. You don't. You have no power here. But anyway, this is Iceman number 4. It's always hard to criticize someone when they do something with good intentions, but they totally screw it up. In the Marines, we had a phrase. It was good initiative, bad judgment. Good initiative, bad judgment would usually get you out of trouble or get your punishment reduced. It's like you wanted to do something good, you just didn't do it good. So obviously, they didn't commission a new cover to commemorate the death of Stan Lee. This is just the cover that was going to be there, except for it really screwed it up because there's this huge amount of obvious dead space where the Marvel logo and the Iceman logo were going to be. So now it's just like this weird thing. It's like Stan Lee, 1922 to 2018, and here's just a giant bunch of dead space with an antler in it. Is that an antler? Is it a tree? Okay. So anyway, this was terrible, and but it's terrible in an interesting way. Okay, so they do the black page. It's basically like a visual sign of respect for Stan Lee, which is good. And then we get this nice drawing of him by Phil Noto. I would say this is Stan Lee from about, I don't know, somewhere between 1995 to 2010. I would call that kind of like Stan Lee. Yeah, probably like 1990 to about 2010 was kind of like, if you think about Stan Lee, you probably think about him in those eras. After that, he's a lot older and got a lot more sick. But that was nice. But then we jump into this, and then we go through this horrible story, and then we get to this. And this is the part where it just gets sad. So I'm going to get to Iceman's back because the New York Times wrote an article 8 months ago, and somebody at corporate got embarrassed. But anyway, yeah, at the end of the last issue, I was saying maybe this is good. Maybe Cena Grace has learned his lesson. He knows, what a superhero comic actually is. But we just start off with just this flat angle, and then we got this phrase. I was kind of roasting someone for using the phrase "I contain multitudes," which is kind of like Twitter speak. Although somebody said it's from a Walt Whitman poem or something. But I've only seen jagoffs use it online. But I've seen jagoffs use this phrase in person. So he's like, "What exactly do you think you're doing?" So he says he's going off to confront the confront the villain. He goes, "Must be nice. Excuse you?" And you lost me. You lost me. Catacombs, more like the catacombs. Am I right? Okay, first of all, no one who is not a jagoff. Did I do that double negative correctly? Okay, everyone who uses "must be nice" is only used by jagoffs. Passive aggressive catty jagoffs. I actually had my first IT job. You know, we do shifts. You know, there always had to be one person at least on station at a time, and but you know, everyone works the same hours per week. So sometimes I'd be like, "Hey, I'm leaving." He's like, the coworker's like, he was British. He's like, "Oh, are you gonna be back?" And I was like, "No, I have tomorrow off." And he's like, "Must be nice." It's like that was not a good British accent. And I was like, we all get the same amount of hours per week. Like, I don't know what, but so then this is a new trope I'm going to start calling out when I see an SJWs, which is everyone's an asshole. I spent like a year and a half trying to psychologically, culturally, historically analyze SJWs, and then I go, what if it's just simple and they're all assholes? And assholes think everyone else is an asshole. So I go, what if these are just assholes? So we get this interesting thing where we see what all SJWs books come to. Somebody is going to be lecturing someone or congratulating themselves. So there's a mutant pride parade. Get it? Get it? Mutants are symbols for gays. I mentioned this many times. Mike's DeClassa, Red Letter Media, Half in the Bag. In the review of X-Men First Class, they were doing a lot of like mutant pride, and they were making it. And he goes, you know, the whole power about mutants is they symbolize any oppressed group, and even people who aren't oppressed. You just feel oppressed for like a minute, and you can be like, yeah, it was rough that one time where they didn't spell my name right on my caramel macchiato. I totally identify with Malcolm X and the X-Men. But when you start making it really, really obvious that they're like a symbolic one-for-one translation to a certain group, it just kind of becomes, oh, okay. So there's a mutant pride, and they're getting ready for it. And then, okay, so I want to show you something. First page of the story, then we're talking about catfish. He really misses eating catfish, even though he could just go up to the street and order some catfish. Because we're going to see, I've mentioned this in other videos, they like to do the, you know, like Yellow Flash says, muties! But mutants in 2018 would not be castigated, hunted, discriminated. They would be celebrated pretty much all the time. They would be celebrated so much that people who aren't mutants would be pretending to be mutants and then be like, how... You're like, are you a mutant, really? Like, what are your powers? It's like, mutants don't have to have powers, bigot. But anyway, so we're like, we got food talk, and then we got, haha, it's funny. He's got a, what even is this? Meatball sandwich? He's eating a meatball sandwich. He's running down the hall. And this is, of course, this face right here is an accidental villain protagonist to a T. ICEMAN is an extremely selfish, self-centered idiot. Maybe I should call that America Chavez syndrome. This is then we'll go to Mutant Pride. Mutant Pride, Manhattan. And this is the weird thing where the thing I just described, which is if mutants did exist in 2018, they would instantly be celebrated and they would have a special status. So we're kind of seeing that that's true. With very little security and no actual attacks, they're having a mutant pride, and it's just like some band. How are we doing, New York? We love you, Dazzler. And then we get a little one panel cameo from Emma Frost's murderer brother who murdered their father, and now she takes him to he's never going to jail. Bobby did not try to arrest him or anything. He just left. Are you sure you want to be here, Christian? Good, because Christians are, yeah. Truly, I feel ready, Emma. I need to see that it's okay to be me, that this won't go away. You're going to be celebrated wherever you go. You also murdered someone and completely got away with it. So things are doing good for you. So then we're at a mutant pride, because mutants, mutants can symbolize. Nope. Mutants are literally a 1-for-1 symbolism of for the gay community. So then we get a drag queen that pops up for one panel and then disappears. And the drag queen's name is Shade, but she wants to say, my name's Shade, but I'm not going to throw any shade at Dazzler because she's amazing. And then Dazzler bows. So we've got endless self-congratulation, she's validating some of it. Who would have thought that the drag king would say that, girl, you are amazing. And then we actually get to the main character who's on the title, and the rule is if your name is in the title, you have to be awesome at one point. Now he is kind of going to, but you see that this is really very symbolic of Marvel. They will put the main character going to fight a villain with two characters that it's not a team book. It's not an Iceman and the Mutant and the X-Men. It's okay. So let's just have Kitty Pryde and Storm, getting endlessly congratulated. So then he goes to be a hero, and it's just kind of weird because they're like, the main character's being a hero. Okay, let's cut back to Bishop, because Bishop and Iceman teamed up like 3 issues ago. And then, okay, so now we're back. The hero is fighting some villains, except for he's really just background for 2 non-title characters to give an endlessly congratulatory speech to themselves, essentially. And then, this is actually kind of cool and weird. I don't know if they followed up on so he walks in and these mutants or these monsters are like having to write on a parchment, but there's no writing. I don't know what's going on with there. So I can't show all the pages, but then we get to the end where this is where it got really sad. So I think there's 2 more issues of this. Oh, a rainbow. Get it? Get it? Get it? Okay, so then we flash back to Stan's Soapbox. Stan's Soapbox is they used to have the bullpen bulletins, which they don't have. Bullpen bulletins was usually somewhere around here. It was like a couple pages from the end of the book. And they would show you all the books coming out this month, which back then would be like 20 to 40 or 50. And right now Marvel has a just fled the shelves philosophy where they'll just put endless trash to kind of push the other companies out of business or take their market share away. But Stan Lee started it, so he would do Stan's Soapbox, which was just him doing a little just like personal, connection to the reader. It's a very classic Marvel thing to do. Axel Alonso didn't really do that. C.B. Cebulski's completely checked out. He's mentally checked out. He got the job. He realized Son of Amanat is in charge. He's like, whatever. whatever. I don't care. Joe Quesada did do something similar. It was called Cup of Joe. But I'm going to read this to you, and you're going to get happy, and then you're just going to get really sad, because you're going to see that not only did Stan Lee die in 2018, but Marvel died. So Stan says, hang loose, heroes. Now that I've got your ear, I'm not letting go. Our first tintabulating topic is going to be the Marvel philosophy. Whenever I get together with any of you frantic ones, the first question posed is usually, what are you fellows really trying to do in your mags? What message are you pushing? Is the whole Marvel series just a big put-on, or are you trying to tell us something? Are you actually serious about your characters? Do you believe in them, etc.? Well, just between us, we believe in our cavorting characters a lot more than we believe in some people we know, and we do have a motive, a purpose behind our mags. Get ready for it. It's going to make you happy and then break your heart, okay? That purpose is plain and simple, to entertain you. We think we found the best formula of all. We merely create the type of fanciful yarns that we ourselves enjoy, and if we like them, you ought to like them too. After all, you're our kind of people. Now then, in the process of providing offbeat entertainment, if we can also do our bit, to advance the cause of intellectualism, humanitarianism, and mutual understanding, and to toss a little swinging satire at you in the process, that won't break our collective heart one tiny bit. That's it, pussycat. It's probably written in the 60s, so that's why he's saying stuff like that. Thanks for listening. Oh, I mean, I did a, kind of like a eulogy for Stan. I just said straight up, I love him just as if he was, a friend of the family or, but this is just sad because this is not what we're getting here. We're getting obvious politics. We're getting endless self-congratulation. We're getting books that entirely exist for that lecture scene. And I want you to start really noticing and pointing out anytime we get to that lecture scene, because that's what it all leads up to in these SJW written comics. Was I entertained? No. Was anyone entertained? This was barely an ICEMAN comic. It was just without, showing all the pages. Let me, 1, 2, I'm going to just show over here. 3, 4, 4.5, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so ICEMAN was in about 2/3 of his own book. Most of it was focusing on an extremely self-congratulatory speech by 2 non-leads. These are not leads in the book. And then he didn't defeat the villain. He just kind of got captured like a dope, and nothing matters. So, like I said, it was well-intentioned that you wanted to honor Stan. I mean, this trade dress thing does not work, but read this. Read this. I'm talking to Marvel. Read this, and then read this. And tell me, do you remotely lived up to the, quote, Marvel philosophy? Because it seems like this was just a trash book made to entertain only the writer and no one else. Or maybe just to keep him busy, keep him off the street from playing in traffic. And tell me where I'm supposed to be inspired by this cameo. He's a side character in his own book. And when he is speaking, he's just being an ass, basically. Half the characters are just mean-spirited assholes. And the characters you like are congratulating themselves endlessly forever. So, yeah. Now I need to take another nap. Anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Thanks to everyone giving to the Patreon, the GoFundMe, and the Indiegogo. And I'll have more new comic reviews up tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.